contribute to this very important debate. Let me start off by thanking His Excellency President A.T. Mnangagwa for creating an enabling environment for us as parliamentarians to add value to this very important process. Bearing in mind that this process is happening at a time Mr. Speaker said, I'd like to reiterate my position that I feel obligated to thank His Excellency President E.T. Mnangagwa for affording us the opportunity to debate on this issue. That we observe this constitutionally important step in the process of transition toward Vision 2030. Having said that, Mr. Speaker said, I would like to make the observation that we have gone for a while without having a delimitation process. If my records are correct, we are 5 years out of step. And the fact that we are 5 years out of step indicates to the fact that a lot of us legislators here are very rusty as to the processes involved in the delimitation exercise. With that understanding that delimitation is not a daily occurrence, I want to make the observation, Mr. Speaker said, that when Z went ahead Mr. Speaker said, thank you very much.
Order. Can we refer to the report of the ad hoc committee and the report?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker said. I was giving a background. Of making this document totally user-friendly. The polling points stated by them in their report must have been reduced to names that people can relate to. Using codes in the report creates potential confusion in the people who read the report. I would therefore advocate, Mr. Speaker said, that bearing in mind that this is a preliminary draft, because there's a gap for the preliminary draft, it follows that there's room for improvement in the report. And my submission, Mr. Speaker said, is that the polling point must be stated in the names that we normally relate to. Thank you very much.
Order. I repeat, let us not discuss the process. The process has been outlined clearly in section 161 of the Constitution. And the report of the ad hoc committee is very clear. Just go to the paragraph where you think there must be some addition. That's all.
On your earlier ruling about the 10 annexures, which we are still waiting for, is the voters' roll part of the 10 annexures, considering that it is a primary source document which must inform our debate?
It's not part of the report.
But how do we debate without the primary source document?
The ZEC report has the narrative and annexures 1 to 10. That's all. That's what is tabled before the House. Thank you. Honorable Kushe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker said the House is appropriately responding to the report by the ad hoc committee that this House set up to analyze the SEC report. I think the committee did a very good job, and that this House must commend the committee for having worked very hard on a like this one. The committee produced a well-balanced report, and I think that this House must consider that report very seriously. However, Mr. Speaker said, I would like to only concentrate in an area where I am competent to comment, which is national and central, and particularly what came out as a pointer to Pura district, which was, of course, delimited. The Pura constituency was delimited, which had a threshold that was lower. And I think which had numbers that were lower than the threshold. This thing runs through the whole report, where some areas have got larger numbers and some areas have got lower numbers. But Mr. Speaker said,
Order, honorable member. Please take a seat. The committee has indicated that in detail. And I want you to refer to the report and say page so and so, paragraph so and so.
by your direction, but I refer to section 4.14. Yeah? Subsection B, 2, which is under national and central. And here is where I refer to both Pura RTC model and West 119, as well as 1.4 of internal competition. Mr. Speaker, all I want to say is I think that consideration should have been, was appropriately given to the geographical spread, the considerations related to the population distribution, and I think that those words remained in place and appropriately so. And I would like to say that when considerations like this have been made throughout the country, Mr. Speaker said these pointers should be considered by ZEC for adjustment. And these pointers are important that they remain in place if they are considered by ZEC and also influence the final result so that we do not have municipalities overflowing from one municipality to the other. And I would like to say this also applies to Chaminuka RDC, which is under Shamba district, where words from Shamba were taken to Bindura and words from Bindura were taken to Mount Darwin. Administratively, that is going to cause a lot of problems. And those observations must be considered seriously, as pointed out by the ad hoc committee on the analysis of the report. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hold on. What we are going to do, we are going to have the hard copies there, so that those who want to quickly sit there. Honorable Mliswa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My contribution really bent on procedure in many ways. The critical issue is the census itself. And I was hoping that the honorable members would have dealt with the census report. The preliminary report is out. So on what basis would you really debate on delimitation without the results of the census? The census is critical in planning. And without the census, you can't plan. So I hasten to say the report was not supposed to have been tabled before the census. Not only that, I believe that this August House has got portfolio committees which are responsible for oversight. And knowing that elections are coming through, they were supposed to then be checking in terms of the time frame. And that again...
Hold on. Honorable member, the report of that which you must interrogate vis-a-vis the one for the committee is whether or not the report did take into account Section 161 of the Constitution, in particular subsection 6, which deals also with population, existing electoral boundaries, the registered voters, the physical features, communication, community interest. These are the issues that you should be saying, are they ventilated in the report? It's not for you now to start talking about population. Indicate whether or not the report will take into account those items mentioned in subsection 6 of section 161 of the Constitution.
Mr. Speaker, exactly my starting point in terms of the population. Yes. In terms of the population. Yes. Once the population is out, then you move to other issues. But the final census is not out. And how then can we go to do boundaries and communicate without the final census being out? What we have is a preliminary report.
What's your recommendation that must take into account?
They were not supposed to even. Mr. Speaker, that's why, if you heard me correct, I was talking about procedure, which is critical in us reaching to a logical conclusion. And procedure was not followed. The first is the population itself, the census. The results are no doubt. Yes. And then being out, it has an effect on planning, because how the wards come in, constituencies, boundaries, and all that. So to me, I'm saying they did not at all have figures of the census before even doing anything. I don't know if you now understand.
Now you are talking.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, in terms of that, the issue of the census being out, the final report, then that would then have to be able to plan properly. But I then move on to something which is critical. We know that the elections were coming. The various portfolio committees know that. And in portfolio committees, as you know, Mr. Speaker said, we had oversight of all these institutions. At what point did we invite them, knowing that elections are coming? How far are you in terms of A, B, C, D? How far are you? And I feel that the portfolio committees did not play their role because oversight was critical because they're the engine room. And that would have gone and corrected. We seem to want to debate on something which should have been corrected already. The law is clear, and if the institution in particular is not following the law, you have portfolio committees who are responsible for inviting them. I did not see any portfolio committee, the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, inviting ZEC and saying, ZEC, you are rushing to do this. Where is the census, the final figure of the population? And I'm saying this because if that had been done, a lot would have been corrected and would not be where we are right now. The budget and finance is also quite critical in terms of census, Mr. Speaker, because the population is an effect on the economy. Numbers, when you bring in numbers, budget and finance are in because it's of economic nature. They were also supposed to say, in view of planning in terms of the budget, the population figures are here. What do we do? That was not done, and I'm trying to say that Parliament itself was supposed to also ensure that the aspect of oversight by the portfolio committees is done, not to get here. I also want to also bring in the COVID issue. It will be amiss for us not to understand the impact of COVID worldwide. The impact of COVID worldwide. If at all we were serious about these elections, we're supposed to consider COVID one that resources needed. Most countries globally, certainly have suffered from an economic point of view. Should we just take elections for the sake of having elections, or we should have elections following procedure. Elections are very expensive. What then happens to people in terms of the resources? So to me, I also feel that the COVID aspect was supposed to be factored in from a national point of view, from a global point of view. And indeed, while others would not agree with me, if elections had to be postponed because of COVID, so be it. That had to be considered at the end of the day because of the effect it had on the economy. Not only that, Mr. Speaker said, the very same members of Parliament were restricted from raising constituencies because of the COVID situation. You could not treat people. So how then can you push for elections when you are the key to communication and you can't get to the people? So to me, that was supposed to be considered as well, because we as legislators are responsible for communicating with people, Mr. Speaker said. But as you know, we couldn't because of COVID. So then, how do we then move forward without us communicating to the people and so forth? So I felt...
Order, please, can the member be held in silence?
Yes, thank you.
So these issues are critical in terms of us doing so. Clearly, what the Constitution, Section 169, subsection 1, talks about 10 years in terms of delimitation and all that. Subsection Section 161, subsection 2 talks about in less than 6, you can't have election in less than, report is not done in less than 6 months. Clearly, there's no point. If we're all doing our maths, it's going to come out, the final one is going to come out in less than 6 months. So what are we debating on? Because already we're in violation of the Constitution. It's in less than 6 months. Then you have to go back to the original boundary, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Speaker. So, less than 6 months, if you look at the calendar, the elections are July, August. And when is this report supposed to really be final? It will be less than 6 months. So unless there is someone who has some spiritual power of changing dates and the calendar and so forth, they must tell us that are they going to move the calendar forward or not? That's all we want in this parliament, someone who has that gift to say dates are going to change, continue. But already it's also a waste of taxpayers' money, because coming here, this is taxpayers' money, and people are questioning, where were we all this time? And why are we bringing it up now? We must serve the people honestly, Mr. Speaker. The other issue, Mr. Speaker said, which I think is quite important, is the issue of the elections. Elections are very important. And one of the issues about elections, Mr. Speaker, is to ask ourselves, does this process we are doing guarantee a free, fair, and credible election? Does this process guarantee a free, fair, and credible election, or we are just rushing to just make sure that we tick the box? But Mr. Speaker said, as you usually say with your favorite saying, it seems the horse had already bolted. It seems the horse had already bolted. And from a legal point of view, this is where condonation appeals are done in view of circumstances beyond the country, COVID and all that. There's also the aspect of finance which I spoke about, which I think we don't have those resources at the end of the day. So Mr. Speaker said, my contribution really is, the horse has already bolted. The report has been submitted just for the basis of ticking the box, but if seriously we were looking at the Constitution, most of these issues were not supposed to be part of this August House because of our role of oversight. And I would say that we were not supposed to entertain this report. The various portfolio committees, like I said, were supposed to play their role, knowing that we've got elections and so forth. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, say that other than that, the delimitation exercise is a very important exercise, but again, the population, the census, nobody knows what it is. So what really, finally, our members debating on when they don't know what the population is, because it is critical for purposes of planning and all that. So Mr. Speaker, I would like to really rest my case by saying that we need, from a procedural point of view, from circumstances beyond the country and the global economy, which really did not do well as a result of COVID. It was important for us to put that to the table. The dynamics, again, of the Ukraine-Russia war are also critical from an economic point of view. It's an unforeseen situation, and it being unforeseen, it happened. How has it affected, the economics of the country and so forth? Would we not spend this money in making sure that the wealth of the people is better? Food security, where are we standing? Or we just want to have elections, but people continue to suffer? That's food for thought. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.